as the men go, so goes your society. And if you don't believe that, show me one civilization ever built by women. Women do not build civilizations. They move in, raise the children, and go shopping. And as the men go, so goes your society. Whatever standard or level or competence or integrity your men have, that is where your society will rise or fall to. And when we look at the sort of man, as D.D. Mabuza was, who rose to the second highest office in the land, we have to ask where South African society has come.
Well, I think South Africa is a movie. We live in a drama. It's a series. Every day you will be shocked by something new. We have even forgotten what shocked us 2 weeks ago. You know, every day.
D.D. Mabuza was neither the worst of the worst, and he was definitely not the best of the best. But he could rise through the ranks and become the second most powerful person in South Africa.
Deputy President David Dabede Mabuza was born at Pollard Trust in Mpumalanga on August 25, 1960. He obtained a Bachelor's of Arts degree in psychology from the University of South Africa in 1989, following his achievement of a National Teacher Certificate from Mgwenya College of Education in 1985. A trained mathematics teacher by profession, he became a school principal before moving to politics. Mabuza served as an MEC for Education in Mpumalanga from 1994 to 98 and as a regional chairperson of the ANC during the same period. He was a member of the PEC of the ANC from 98 to 2006, MEC for Housing from 99 to 2001, member of the Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature from 99 to 2001, and as a member of the Mpumalanga Legislature from 2004 to 2007.
It is our responsibility as elected officials to work together to address them. South Africans are disinterested in our political disputes, in our political divisions and slogans. We are at a crossroad of difficult socio-economic challenges that can only be resolved through our collective commitment, shared national interests, and purposeful cohesion.
He was no fool and slowly rose through the ranks, coming from a farm, getting his teacher's certificate, becoming a very good maths teacher apparently, working at the Department of Education from 86 to 88, became a principal of a secondary school. He was secretary of the Azania Student Organization in 1984. He was part of the United Democratic Front and was a big player in SADTU for all his years. He joined the legislature of Mpumalanga in 1994, becoming an MEC of Education from 94 to 98, Housing 99 to 2001, Transport 2007 to 2008, Agriculture and Land Administration 2008 to 2009. He served as the Premier from 2009 to 2018 of Mpumalanga, finally rising to the office of Deputy President in February of 2018, and again in May 2019. He served as Deputy President of South Africa from 2018 to February 2023. D.D. Mabuza was not a fool, but we could definitely do better, because the sort of men that rise in your society shows what kind of society you're going to have. D.D. Mabuza rose. This man was no fool, and he made Cyril Ramaphosa president. If you don't believe that, let me remind you. He started by increasing the size of his influence of the Mpumalanga branch of the ANC through rigorous recruitment and chicanery. Mpumalanga, under his leadership, had the second highest delegation total at the ANC's 54th National Conference in 2017, if you remember this. And this is because of the vast recruitment efforts that he had instigated. So he built a big number of people. Second highest delegation total, meaning they had the second most valuable vote at the ANC National Conference in 2017. He was part of the Premier League, which was a thing back then, which was a grouping of premiers who would move things around in the ANC and in the country and carry out political chicanery. He was alongside Ace Magashule and Supra Mahumapelo, which meant that he was not only influential in the ANC in Mpumalanga, but he was influential on the national level, and coming to the conference, he was very powerful. Mabuza initially backed Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma for the ANC leadership in 2017. If you remember, that was the main contender against Cyril. And Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma was being backed by not only Mabuza, but by Jacob Zuma and many others. He then famously switched his support to Cyril shortly before the vote of the 2017 ANC elective conference. The same conference where the CR17 scandal cropped up, where allegedly money was, well, it's not that alleged, but where allegedly money was given in return for votes. And I'm talking billions here. He switched just before that vote. And famously, his justification was that he was voting for the unity of the ANC, and he believed that Cyril was the person who could bring that unity, and he called it the unity vote. This shift in support from the Mpumalanga delegation, which was the second biggest at that conference, was critical for Ramaphosa's successful bid for the party's leadership. With that shift, Mpumalanga threw all its support behind Cyril Ramaphosa. And that's how Didi Mabuza proved that he was a kingmaker and made Cyril president. And in return, Mabuza secured a position as deputy president of the ANC in December 2017, serving under Cyril. When Ramaphosa became president of South Africa in February 2018, he appointed his new best friend Didi Mabuza as deputy president of South Africa. Didi Mabuza was no fool. He gave himself the nickname the Cat for his ability to survive political attacks and bounce back. He established the Didi Mabuza Foundation in 2014, focusing on education, and he ended his presidency becoming one-term deputy president in 2023. I say that a society must always watch what kind of men rise. All throughout his career, Mr. Mabuza, the former deputy president, was a man shrouded in scandal. Every time you even saw him, the man just looked off. Something was just not right about him. He was just off and creepy, and maybe that was the symptoms of what he called his poisoning. And some of the scandals around him are things like, in 1998, there was a matric results scandal. As MEC of Education in Mpumalanga, Mabuza was embroiled in a scandal where the province's 1998 matric results were found to have been fraudulently inflated, leading to his removal from the position by then Premier Matthews Phosa. In 2009, there was a farmhouse burglary and missing millions. So in 2009, a large sum of cash initially reported at about 14 million rand was allegedly stolen from Mabuza's farmhouse. The incident was covered in some secrecy, with police later confirming only about 4 million was reported and a minimal amount was taken. The event raised questions about the origin of such amounts of cash. But I've heard people in Mpumalanga say that at his farm, Didi Mabuza used to have big tanks. You know, these JoJo tanks that people use for storing water and such. He used to have quite a few of these at his farm because he lived out on a farm. And in these JoJo tanks, according to some people in Mpumalanga, allegedly, of course, you didn't hear it from me, was not water or some other thing that you store in a JoJo tank. The JoJo tanks at Mabuza's, at Didi's house, were filled with money. Now listen, that might be just a myth that people tell each other in Mpumalanga. That's part of Mpumalanga political folklore maybe, and you definitely didn't hear it from me. Subscribe to the channel or Cyril Ramaphosa will be president forever. So there you are, Christian, alone, unmarried, and getting on in years. Ladies, have you ever thought maybe you're the problem? Have you ever thought to yourself, perhaps there's something I don't understand, perhaps there's something I just am not getting, something I don't know? Because every single day, let me tell you, madam, you walk past many men, you interact with many men, and you live in a world full of them. But not one can take you as a wife. There you are, a Christian girl trying to get married, but no one is marrying you. Where have the good men gone? Hookup culture has torn apart society. The way people interact is confusing and strange. But at the end of the day, the world is full of men. And a lot of them are Christian men, but no one is marrying you. Didi Mabuza was also surrounded by allegations of political killings and violence all throughout his career. Mabuza has faced persistent, though he denied them, allegations about being linked to political killings and intimidation of opponents in Mpumalanga. During his tenure as premier, whistleblowers and political activists have openly accused DD Mabuza of his involvement in these assassinations, often referring to a high number of unexplained deaths in the province that can be traced back to him somehow. Now we get to the poisoning. In 2015, the cat himself, Deputy President Mabuza, claimed he had been poisoned, an incident he survived at least for 10 years, right? Leading to his self-proclaimed nickname, the Cat. While he attributed it to political attacks, the circumstances and perpetrators were never definitively established. Of course, this fueled speculation about internal power struggles and all sorts of other thinking. In 2015, there was a lawsuit against Matthews Phosa. Mabuza sued Matthews Phosa for defamation after Phosa reportedly sent a memo to ANC headquarters alleging Mabuza was an apartheid spy.
You could do so. You want.
The lawsuit was dismissed in the High Court in 2017, but highlighted the deep political animosity between the two. And ironically, in 2017, that's when he was rising and made Cyril president. There were controversial land deals and evictions surrounding this man regarding large land deals and allegations of irregular practices, including those concerning nature reserves. Also, concerns raised about forced evictions of productive farmers under land reform programs, despite his assurances to the contrary. If you know anything about Mpumalanga, there's a lot of land claims there and a lot of corruption around that. There were also alleged corruption in public projects. In 2018, the New York Times feature highlighted allegations that millions of dollars for education have disappeared in a vortex of suspicious spending, shoddy public construction, and brazen corruption to fuel his political ambitions during his time as Mpumalanga Premier. The Premier League, which gave him influence and power in the party, they formed an alliance that gained significant influence in that party. Concerns were raised that the rapid increase in ANC membership in Mpumalanga under his leadership was achieved through questionable means, including allegations of cash handouts and even KFC meals.
Stop it. Get some help.
To attract new members, he knew exactly what he was doing. He was growing that base of membership in Mpumalanga because it would give him more power, and it worked out. It took him to the second highest office in this country, making him the second most powerful man in South Africa. He took frequent medical trips, if you remember. Mabuza's trips to Russia for treatment for his alleged poisoning raised questions about the nature of his illness, costs involved, and why he sought treatment abroad rather than in South Africa. Mabuza was involved in a long-running civil case with the conservationist Fred Daniel, who accused him of abusing his power and being involved in land scams and other irregularities in Mpumalanga. I could go on, but this is DD Mabuza. This is the man who is now dead and the man that took Cyril to highest office. As the men of your country go, so goes your country.
Emotional, damn it!
We have to now look at ourselves and really reassess where this country is going and why the sort of men like DD keep rising to the top. We cannot build the country and the society that we want to see if men like DD Mabuza continue to be kingmakers and continue to rise to high office while occupying all sorts of offices along the way that give them immense powers. We must, as South African men, actually move our country in a different direction. It's going to take men better than DD Mabuza, God rest his soul. Because in a country where you have the Enyobeni Tavern massacre.
To the Eastern Cape now, where the inquest into the Enyobeni Tavern tragedy continues at the Mdantsane Magistrates Court. Siyakhangela Ndevu, the tavern manager, continues his testimony for a second day. His defense shifts the focus away from the establishment and onto the parents of the 21 teenagers who died in 2022. He claims the parents failed to monitor their children and are therefore partly to blame.
It shows that there's a desperate need for fathers in the house, in the neighborhood, in the street, in society. The men have to take firm control of the society and reinstill order, discipline, and peace and quiet. When a proposal like lashing prisoners comes about, people sort of jump out of their socks.
Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services, Komoto Ramolobeng, says she was taken aback by Correctional Services Minister Peter Groenewald's utterances during the tabling of his budget this week. Groenewald suggested corporal punishment to be brought back to deal with overcrowding in prisons.
We have just over 104,000 sentenced prisoners in our jails or prisons, and we have 108,000 beds for them. But then we have 60,000 remand detainees, and that is where we have this problem with overcrowding. Now, part of these 2,530 remand detainees, there are 2,530 who is in our detention because they could not afford a bail of 1,000 rand and less. In other words, it's more minor. Should we not consider again to use corporal punishment? Because I know there are people that say that, firstly, it is inhumane. They say it is barbaric. My question is, say, for instance, a person committed a specific crime, a minor crime, getting bail of 300 rand, cannot afford it, but must now wait in a prison 6 months, even more than a year. And just to give a perspective, we have the remand detainees that is actually waiting for more than 10 years now to get sentenced. Now, I think it is more inhumane to have such people in a prison for, say, that time before their court case will be finalized.
But this is an actually good idea.
Perfect.
Where foreigners can run rampant and think they can bully us in our own country, what does that say about South Africa and the men here?
We will defend our dignity and integrity.
Yes.
We are not here courtesy of South Africans. We are not here courtesy of anyone.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man.
The South African leadership has fallen apart to such a degree that the US government doesn't know who to talk to, and they start barking orders at us. We should renounce, kill the Boer. We should do this and do that. When you have good, solid diplomatic channels, those sort of things aren't even said in the media. They're only saying them in the media and pulling stunts like inviting a delegation of the Freedom Front Plus or of Afrikaner men to come speak to the government because the government apparently is not speaking to them. And one of the saddest stories I've heard in a very long time in a country just flooded with sad stories is of a little girl who died and was not only bitten by dogs, but they were consuming her. What kind of country is that? It's a country that is out of order, and to bring order and peace and civility, the men need to step in. The men need to lead. Too many men have given away their leadership positions of families and society to women. This is disgusting. D.D. Mabuza was no fool, but he was definitely not the sort of statesman this country needs. We need to move away from the generation of the D.D. Mabuzas and the CR17s. We need a group of millennial men of integrity and competence to shift and move this country forward. But the question you have to ask yourself, now that D.D. Mabuza is gone, is South Africa a better place or worse off? Thank you for listening. If you dare, buy us a coffee. The link is in the description.